Hello, and welcome to a new episode of The Career Changes. Today, our guest is Lillian Victoria, peak performance coach and entertainment media producer. While working on international film projects with several A-list Hollywood talents, she noticed the similar characteristics in their thought patterns that led them to their success. Today, she's on a mission to awaken people to be directors, lead actors, and producers of their own life movies. Hi, Lillian. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
A really exciting topic, but let's start with your career. What was your dream job when you were a child?
When I was a child, my dream job was actually to become a model. And then as I grew in life, I started to find things to do with a purpose. Like when I went into the entertainment space, actually, I was hoping to use that as a tool to find my father.
So, while growing up, what did you study? What is your educational background?
I went to school for film, television, media, film. And I also went to school for economics. I double majored, but I didn't finish the economics because I did all that against my mom's will, because she didn't understand how the film business worked, and I didn't understand. But I think I was just driven at a very young age by a purpose. I secretly majored film behind my mother's back, and
Mm.
I didn't want her to find out. So when the time came to graduate, I just graduated with media. I started my major with economics and then graduated with media.
So it's really interesting you had this passion since you were very young. And what was your first job? How did you start your professional life?
Yeah, I started my first job as interns with MTV Networks. And then I ended up working with Ice Cube. Back then, he had a production company called Cube Vision. And then from there on, I just worked on more and more movies. And then eventually, I went to do a lot of things in China, so US and China. So there are a few big pictures there. And one of the reasons why I was able to drive myself there, because even though I'm Chinese and never been to China, was because I thought my dad was in China. I guess this is where there's a will, there's a way. And
Mm.
I went there. It was fantastic. I had amazing career experience, international experience, and I was able to find friends to help me find my father and to realize that he's not in China.
And so then after, how did you progress in your career? You had an amazing career. You met many Hollywood stars. So what happened after that?
I think the biggest thing is when I realized that my dad wasn't in China and I found where he's at through ancestry.com. For a while, my sort of passion or my drive plateaued, right? And then I was looking for a bigger purpose in life. But that was also a time where I got married, I had kids, so my focus was completely changed. And and then I went through divorce. And that was a very life changing thing for me because I went through a huge identity shift and career shift. So it's like, what do I want to do? What do I love? And that's how I got into personal development, coaching, leadership. And I have my consulting company. If I didn't hit my version of my rock bottom in life, I think I will be stuck in somewhere that I was just not happy and personal. And then there's the professional. But because I lost everything, I always look back and I'm very grateful. That gave me a situation, gave me an opportunity to rebuild myself for who I am, find a purpose in life, and really also take that opportunity to let go a lot of people in my life, both professional and personal, that was holding me back. And it took some time. I call that the dead space, meaning when we go through changes and shifts, there's going to be a disruption period. And then after that, once I got clear with where I'm heading towards, that's where the abundance came in. That's where the opportunity came in. I used to feel like I was stuck in entertainment, and how do I get out of a different business so I could have like more purpose in life? And I was able to build that successfully and keep growing. and I'm able to still create the projects that I could stand by. So that was the biggest shift. I always remember one of my mentors told me business development and personal development, they always go hand in hand. If your business or your career plateaued, then you work on yourself because then you can lead yourself there again. So they always go hand in hand, especially if you are a vision of your own and you are a leader of your own, whether you're an entrepreneur, you're an entrepreneur, you're in a leadership, that you want more, something more in life, then that's what makes it important because that's when you start to live, when you know there is something bigger than whatever you're at right now. And usually people change, and not all the time. Like you could change when you want to change, but unfortunately, and I was one of those, I didn't realize I had to change until I lost it all.
Yeah,
Not
how it
saying that you
happens.
don't have to.
And this happens to many of us. So when did you come up with the idea of approaching life as a movie? I guess this is something that came up from your background by working in this industry, but also with personal development.
Mhm. Yeah. When you look at your life, it's a story you tell, right? So that was one of the skills I thought was very interesting because I did go to film school and I did help a lot of people and work with a lot of projects where we took an idea and we really made it into a project where people could see. One thing that I learned is we're doing it in our own lives. The narrative, the story that you tell, you're driving it. You're the director of it. You're the writer of it. You're the producer of it. How do you want to live? You budget it. You're the casting director. You let the people into your life. And you could also fire them as well. So that's why it was when I started to go into peak performance consulting, working with leaders, that's what everything started to change because I'm like, what their outcome and how they perform, which is the outside, everything goes in the inside. And most people, like the old me, I wasn't leading myself. I was playing a supporting character in my own movie. Your life is your own movie. Sarah Blakely, founder of Spain, she famously said at one point when she was selling door-to-door fax machines, she was like, "This is not my movie." And she changed it. For most people, they don't know what they want. So the number one, I always say, get very clear with what you want. And that's where the writing starts to happen. That's when your voice starts to shine. Most people, they don't know. But when the minute you really start to listen to that voice, I call that peeling the layer of onions. I had to go through it because growing up, I was told certain things. I got to be a certain way. I got married at the right age, like when I probably shouldn't have. I felt like I had to get married at 29, 28, 29, have my baby around 30, have a house, that whole American like checklist, American dream, and realize that actually that wasn't really what I wanted. So the question was like, what is it that I want? And then the moment I started to figure that out, that is me writing my story. I could see it, I could visualize it. Van Gogh, before he paints his painting, he sees it in his mind, right? Every single director, before they see the movie, they direct the movie, before they put the movie on a script, they already see it in their mind. That's why Mel Gibson, when he wrote Rocky, it took him just a few days because he saw the whole movie already. Now it's just putting pen to paper. And that's how what we are doing in our lives, right? So now you can course correct if you have to, right? Yeah.
That sounds really interesting. And I guess what was the story you wanted to write for yourself?
Oh yeah, I wanted to be somebody, right? For me, the biggest thing for me that I had to come to terms with was I never had a father, so there was abandonment issues. I had experienced childhood sex abuse, which I didn't know how big it impacted me because it took my voice away. So I always say, like, I went to therapy for years to work on that inner child. And that's why I walked into a marriage that wasn't in harmony with me because I had very low self-esteem, that need for love, that need for I'm not good enough. And there was a lot of pain, right? After working on myself, I always like to say this, I turn my pain into art. What happened in the past doesn't define me. My tool is to go out and help people. It is actually there to empower me. Versus before, I feel like I was so paralyzed. I was stuck in this victim mindset. I want to talk about it. So at this age in life, everything I want to do, I just go and do it because I lived a life like at least 35 years of being very just self-sabotaging. Everything about me, I didn't think it was good enough. There's this very bad voice in my mind. But now I know what I want. And that's my definition of success. Everyone's success is different. My definition of success is I know what I want. I live the life that I want. So in creation and everything that I want to do in my life, I'm setting off to do. So it's not this or that, it's this and that. But also having the courage to walk away from situations when you just know that if you're outgrown it or make difficult decisions of this is not going to take me where to where I want to be. Because one thing that I promised myself was every year I'm going to be growing. I'm not going to be at the same place. That is a definite promise I had for myself. So when I saw to see myself and where I'm heading towards when I was at my rock bottom, I call that the hero moment. Have you watched superhero movies? Yeah, there's always like that moment, right? They're weak, they don't know what to do. And then there's that moment where there's like that fire comes up and they usually have like their own story, but a fire, and then they completely flip. So I call that's my hero moment. And I also came to conclusion, this is for everyone. If I don't make the change and if I don't do it, no one's going to do it for me.
And that's interesting. I think that many times the hero moment can actually be in our lowest point, and that is where something is changing. So, reframing our life as a movie, how can that help to redefine our personal narrative?
I always say this, number one, start with what you want and think very big. Something that you've never done before. You just hit the bullseye with someone. So many people are living on autopilot. They're just every single day, it's the same after the same after the same. And one of the reasons why that happens is because we all have a subconscious mind, which is our human programming. 95 to 98% of the results come out from a subconscious mind. Now, to make sure that we're closing what we call the knowing and doing gap, you got to know what you want so you can stretch yourself. Okay. They say dream big. There's a reason for that, but you don't want to just dream, you want to become, right? When you see yourself at the end of what you're doing, whether it's your financial goal, whether if you're looking to, I don't know, become a movie star, or you're looking to build business, and then you have your family, right? You want to see what that person is. How does that person talk? And I always say this, use money to be a measurement, because money is a measurement of results, right? When you look at compensation, it is the law of compensation. It has come through service. It's coming through service. And that's when you know, right? Mm-hmm. So when you look at, let's say Lillian, making 6 figures to 7 figures to 8 figures. How does this woman dress? How does she talk? How does she treat people? I have 3 kids. How am I as a mother? How am I as a leader? I'm also a business owner and I have partners. Like, how do I act? How do I speak on stage? How do I lead? I start to see that person. And if you don't know who that person is, then I advise you to look for people that you look up to, like mentors. You can know them, you don't have to know them. Whoever speaks to you most, and then you start to write them down and then see what are the characteristics you like about them. What is it about them that they speak to you? And write down those characteristics, because that's something that you resonate, right? And then you start to implement, you become right now immediately. So there is this thing called the cause and effect. The effect is your habits. The effect is your behaviors. The effect is your results. I get this a lot from people. Oh, what's your goal? I want to be famous. Okay, that's an effect, right? If you want to be famous, then focus on the process too. What are you doing? People are famous not because they're just famous. They're famous because they're successful at something, whatever that is for you. Everyone, there's so many ways. That what is authentic to you. And then the cause is your belief system, your subconscious mind. It's knowing that is already there. I have a 1.5-year-old baby, and he's just walking the stairs now. And I'm like, this kid is fearless, because that's one step is like half of him, but he's doing whatever he can. And there is no fear in him, no fear. Right? They're willing to do whatever it takes, even if they fall so many times. But all he wants to do is become a little adult. Whatever I do, he does. So when I clean, he cleans, right? I'm saying that because before 5 years old, okay, everything that goes into baby goes straight into your human programming, your subconscious mind. And as an adult, for us to change, there's 2 ways. One is repetition. Okay. So this is where that affirmation, auto-suggestion, all that comes in. So you can reprogram yourself. Another one is emotional impact. And that usually deals with something negative. 9/11, divorce. I went through divorce, right? Loss of a loved one, something that is very emotional. That's when people can make a drastic change. But the biggest key to change, so I call that to close the knowing and the doing up. You got to become, you got to elevate your self-image. So what's self-image? We all have two images. You have one inside, how you see yourself, your relationship with yourself, and you have one projecting outside. Okay. That inside is very important. Am I worthy? How worthy are you? Especially for women in the executive space, because I work with a lot of executives, okay, company CEOs. And one thing is, especially for women, there is this thing of, oh, I'm not sure if I'm there yet. And whereas men, when they see an opportunity, even if they don't have the experience, they're able to visualize and see it. But if you really take a step back, it's the culture and the society that have programmed us, right? Men are there to hunt, to lead. And women, we're there to take care of our kids. So it's an over-generation programming. So the one thing is, for a lot of women executives, for them to step up is like there's really a vision and a drive, and then that belief there, because it is the person that you are that you attract. Have you ever been in a room where someone walks in and that person doesn't have to say anything, and you just know this guy's a decision maker or the leader? So that's the energy that I'm sharing, of becoming that person first, and that's how everything around you starts to change. But this really goes into method acting. Do you know what method acting is?
If you can explain that.
Yeah. So this is what's very interesting, because a really great actor, they are the character before they're on screen, right? They are that person. Like Will Smith, very famously in Pursuit of Happiness, he was so into character. When they were on break, his son Jaden was like, "Can I have an orange juice?" And he's like, "We can't afford that." But they're into character. And now you don't need to be a method actor. I'm certainly not a method actor, but you could apply those and take control of your life, and saying that, okay, this is where I'm heading, this is who I am, and I'm going to become that person right now. I think like that person, I act like that person, I be that person, I create opportunities, and then everything else will start to fall into place. However, it does take time. It doesn't happen overnight. It's not rainbows and butterflies. Yeah.
So what steps can someone take to become the hero of their own story if they've not been in that role at all during their life?
Again, you got to identify what you want. And usually people, the ones that can rise most, the ones that I've seen, include myself, is when they're in this phase, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. Enough is enough. Something has to change dramatically. Barbara Cochran, she loves investing in entrepreneurs that came from a poor background, because they had that fire, they want more. And she's not the only person that says it, but then a true entrepreneur, they actually perform the best when their back is against the wall, when you have nowhere to go, because you got to make it work, right? So I say that because then the person that is watching this or listening to this, do you have the fire, right? What is it that you really want? What is it that's going to motivate you, inspire you to get out? Me, it was my kids. I was raised by a single mom who was emotionally and physically unavailable to take care of me and my brother. And I knew that I was not going to be my mother. I knew that I was going to be able to provide for them, to have a great childhood, a beautiful home, a new family, which now I'm in a modern family. I have 3 kids, but 2 biological, stepbrothers and half brothers, right? And that was very important for me, because that's something that I always wanted when I was a kid. So I would do whatever it takes to make sure that would happen. But also knowing that will happen. That's the thing. You got to know that's going to happen. And that's where the repetition comes in, of reprogramming my own mind. That's why I always go back to one very simple question. What is it that you want, or what is it that you love? And then that will get the doors opening. And then when you could figure out the life that you would love, and put all the logic, all the disbelief, all the blah, 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 BS belief system aside, and you focus on what is it that you want in your life, then I say that then you see the light at the end of the tunnel. Then you can see something that excites you, that gives you butterfly, that gives you some purpose for your own life, right? And that's when the change happens. That's when you're not on the autopilot anymore. And when people change, think about a caterpillar. Before the caterpillar is going to become a butterfly, there is a little season that's a little discomfort, it's isolated, and then the shell breaks through, right? When people go through change, it can be lonely. Like for me, when I went through change, because I had to shed a lot of people or environment that just was not in harmony within me anymore. And that's a period that people need to understand it comes with it. But once you go through that period and become the butterfly, you only attract more and more butterflies.
So earlier on, you mentioned the important to like the actors can actually be in the part before they actually act. And so how important is visualization in designing our life like a movie, but also what techniques can be used to visualize success and manifest it in real life?
Yeah. Visualizing. So we visualize because we have this mental tool in our mind called imagination, right? When you, in the mind itself, whatever you put in, you start to visualize an image. I'll give you an example. A red car. Did you just see it in your mind now? So we're
Yeah.
always visualizing. With the awareness, and when you know what you want, you can start to visualize towards that direction. We also have another mental tool, which is called memory. And memory can be used in so many different ways. But without the awareness, most people, they use their memory to think about all the mistakes in the past and not the vision of the future, right? Very different. I didn't know that. I was diagnosed depressed because I was so focused on the memories of the past, everything, all the mistakes I've done. But it changed when I started to know what I want. And that's where the thinking happens. When you start to think and you think about what you want, you start to see it. You can see it before your eyes. So visualizing is always happening. When a person is operating in faith, they can see all the possibilities. When the person's operating in fear, they see all the possibilities that they're gonna fail.
Yeah,
Right?
that's
It's the same
right.
thing. How are you seeing it? So manifestation is you have a thought that creates a feeling, you take an action. So the thought, when I say, what would you love? It starts with the thought, oh, what would I love? And you can start to see it and it creates a feeling. The feeling is in your subconscious. And based on that feeling, we're going to take an action, right? When we're coming from a place of want, this is what I would want. We're coming from a place of inspiration. When you're coming from a place of need, oh, I need to do this to survive, that's coming from a place of desperation. Very different energy. And when you take action, again, very different results. I've worked with a lot of real estate and financial people, like professionals. There are people, this is across, not just that industry, even in entertainment. There are people, when they set their stuff to do something, it's already done in their mind. There is no doubt, none of that. And they make it look really easy. So those are the people, they see it, they know it, they own it. That's where the confidence comes in. And then there's a lot of people, they mimic exactly what the top producers or the top actors are doing, but they're not getting there because deep down inside, they're not believing it. There's a very negative thought, or we call that the paradigm. Everything could be work. And then also the attitude. What is your attitude and your outlook? Once I understand how mental attitude works, I really call it the key for me to open up all the doors. I used to get stuck, but that gives you the key to get unstuck. How are you looking at things? So manifestation is thoughts creating a feeling, but backed with an action and a plan. It is not woo-woo. I do want to make that clear. Right now, I'm using a camera, talking to you on Zoom. That was someone's idea that they manifested. The iPhone, right?
Yeah.
Back in the days, you don't have any of this, but someone had this idea and they took action and created it into something. That's what it is. And to add one last thing besides visualization, another thing that's really important, because I keep talking about reprogramming, auto-suggestion. And when you know what you want to make sure that you keep auto-suggest, repeating that to yourself. You're your own best friend over and over again until you believe. Because that belief is going to be very important. If you don't believe it, then you want to take massive action, because that's a process to help you believe. But if you're really not going to believe, that's who you're not. Most ideas are stillborn. Most people, they don't take action, not because of what they don't want, it's because what they believe that they're not.
Mm. So we're reaching the end of this episode. We have a few more questions. So first of all, looking back at your movie so far, what scenes are you most proud of?
I'm the most proud of being able to pick myself up every time I fall. Because I realize that wealth and mindset and career, because I've done a few career changes, and it's not being defined by the outside. It's you who you defined. And when you could own up to what you're proud of, that's self-image and confidence. Then you can recreate. So I'm no longer afraid of losing it all and rebuilding it back up because I've done that, right? Before I think it's like this, but it's not. It's life is this. That's a law of rhythm. There's up and down. And what I'm most proud of right now is everything that I'm doing that's happening right now is what I've set up a few years ago that I'm going to do. And it's all happening. Yeah.
Mhm. And the last question, what advice would you give to someone just starting to approach their life as a movie?
Know what you want. It's very simple. Know what you want, visualize your life, tell that story. I don't know what everyone's going to tell a different story. My story went from I'm not good enough. Who am I? I'm a single mom. I feel stuck. I don't know what I want. To actually, there's more, there's so much more in life. The world is my oyster. My life has just started. I'm in my 40s right now, and life has just started. I feel like I'm living more now than when I was in my 20s and my 30s. And really just have fun with life and gamify it. And the minute you realize that everything's going to be just fine, I'm co-creating with the universe or God, whatever you believe, right? Everything always works out for me. Everything I touch always turns into gold. That's an affirmation that I have. And then it becomes easy because usually when it's very challenging and difficult, it's the person overthinking a lot. It becomes easy when it's fun. Okay, let me try. Let's see what's going to happen. And then you just have fun with it. Just have fun with life. You tell the story of your life, but just remember, whatever story you tell yourself, most likely that's what's going to become your life.
That sounds great. Well, thank you, Lillian, so much for joining us today and sharing your inspirational career change story and wisdom with our listeners.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And the last message for our listeners, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review and tune in next week for a new inspirational episode of the Career Changers. Thank you.